You're listening to the Daily Mishnah Podcast with Benedict.
The 8th chapter is dealing with situations of doubt. And, we've always said that the Mishnah likes edge cases. And so let's look at an ultimate edge case now. Nazir shahayatame b'safek. So there's a Nazir who was in doubt whether he'd come into contact with a dead body. Possibly yes, possibly no. Remember, if he's come into contact with a dead body, he will have lost all of his time. He's going to have to bring his sacrifices. He'll be sprinkled on the 3rd and the 7th day. He'll bring his sacrifices for tumah, for defilement by a dead body, and then he's going to count 30 days again. So that's the situation with someone who's tameh, who's tameh, who's been in contact with a dead body, and this particular Nazir is not sure. He doesn't know what his status is. Umukhlat b'safek. A mukhlat is someone who's confirmed as a mutzorah. He's got sarat. He's got this mysterious skin disease that we don't really understand what it is, and that's why I'm just translating it as sarat here. It's some skin disease, and it involves being, you're shut away, but you also bring korbanot and you also shave. We'll find out. Umukhlat b'safek. He's in doubt as to whether he's a confirmed mutzorah. I'm not really sure how you could be in doubt as to whether you're a confirmed mutzorah, but this is anyway the scenario that the Mishnah is articulating. Ochel bakorashim lachar shishim yom. So after 60 days, he can eat holy things again. V'shoteh v'yainu mitameh lametim lachar me'ah ve'esrim yom. And after 120 days, so 2 lots of 60 days, he can drink wine, and he can again come in contact with the dead. In other words, his Nazirut finishes 120 days later. This, by the way, is a minimal quantity, and the commentators point out that this is for someone who has a regular 30-day Nazirut. But if he had sworn 1 year, then rather than growing from 30 days to 120 days, he'd expand out from 1 year to 4 years. So be careful if you're going to be a Nazir and you sign up for a year. Just be careful what you wish for. Why is this? Tiglachat hanegadoche hanazir. Because the shaving for tzarat overrides tiglachat hanazir, shaving for nazir, but the Mishnah really is saying it overrides not shaving for nazir. It overrides it. And let's just take a step out here and let's look at the Pesukim, because we don't necessarily understand what this shaving for tzarat is. What's going on with shaving for tzarat? We need to go back to Sefer Vayikra, to Leviticus. We're in the Parsha of Mutzorah. And the process of cleaning yourself, of let's say repurification after tzarat, after the Kohen declares that you're okay, you wash your clothes, you shave, you come in, and you're gonna bring two sacrifices at that point. You come in back into the camp. And then you wait another 7 days. And then on the 7th day, you're going to shave again. And you're going to wash, and you're going to bring a second set of korbanot. So there are 2 shavings with the if you like, the re-entry from Sarat. And the Torah is very specific about the fact that they happen on the 7th day. And I guess that is why the Mishnah rules. The Mishnah rules, Tiglachat hanega docha tiglachat hanazir. Shaving for tzurat overrides not shaving if you're a Nazir. In other words, if you're a Nazir, you do get to shave for the conclusion of your tzarat. But here's the but: bisman shehi vadai, only when it's certain. Only when it's certain. Aval bisman shehi safek eina ducha. But if you're not certain whether you have tzarat, at this point it doesn't override. So you can't just go out and shave on the seventh day. So, well, what are we going to do? Well, the regular Nazir can't shave for 30 days. The regular Nazir can't shave for 30 days. So rather than the 7-day interval before the first shaving, once he's declared okay, he's going to wait 30 days before he brings his first set of sacrifices. And then, of course, he's going to wait another. He's a dubious Nazir and Sarat. If he was a real Mutzorah, if he's a real Mutzorah, those days don't count for his Nazirut. So he's waited 30 days out of Safek, but he hasn't necessarily completed his Nazirut. He might be a real Mutzorah. So he's going to then wait another 30 days before bringing his second set of sacrifices. And that's why the Mishnah explains that he can eat consecrated food after 60 days. In other words, after 60 days, he's finished his purification from Sarat. That's the first 60 days. But it doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop because remember, Nazir Shahaya Tameh Safek. He was also in doubt as to whether he'd been defiled by contact with a dead body. So he has to bring the korbanot, and he's got to do the shaving associated with the tumah from the dead body. But it's a safek. It's a safek. So normally, if he knows he's come into contact with a dead body, he'd bring those after 7 days. But it's a safek. It doesn't. And by the way, that shaving would take precedence over the prohibition on shaving for the Nazir. Yeah, he'd have to start counting his Nazirut again from day one, but at least he shaves, he brings his korbanot on the 7th, on the 8th day, he sprinkled on the 3rd and the 7th days. In this case, it's a dubious contact with the dead. He's not going to bring the sacrifices to recover from contact with the dead until 30 days. So now we got a third set of 30 days. And then finally he's clear of all of these dubious obligations, and then he can really serve out his 30 full days of Nazirut. And then at that point, he's done everything he needs to do, and he's fulfilled his term as a Nazir.
Thank you for listening to this edition of the Daily Mishnah Podcast with Benedict.